gosh, quite some time ago, with the hope that you'd be able to make it, Mims, and you have been able to make that. So that is absolutely fantastic, I have to say. So thank you very much for coming along today is my first thing. Let me just do a very quick little bit of HHBA housekeeping, which isn't actually very much. The next meeting is on the 25th of November at 9 AM, and that's Paul Dalabar and Rob Carpenter, and that's another oh gosh, what do we call it, Sue? It's gone, oh, you're on mute. It's our
Meet the expert, Claire.
It's a meet the expert in our growth strategy for this tricky time. So they are two business coaches which will be able to help our members with some of the issues that they're facing now. And just a little thing for Zoom, do put your name on your screen so that when you're asking questions, our speakers can actually see and maybe refer to you by name. That might be quite nice as well. So do change your name. And if you want to put your business in there as well, please do, because I think that's kind of handy as well. Okay, so very quickly about how this is going to run this morning. I'm going to go quiet in a minute, which is a hard thing for me to do, I know. Then I'm going to hand over from Ali from the council. He's going to do a very quick 5 minutes. Then he's going to hand over to Mims, who's going to do another very quick presentation. But really what we want to do this morning is use this opportunity to ask them questions that are relevant. We do have in the agenda some time to mention your business and breakout rooms, but I'm going to leave those fluid. If we have a lot of questions for our speakers, then I'd rather spend that time doing that. And if you want to arrange some breakout rooms much later, we can maybe organise that in this remit as well. So that's how we're going to run today. I'm not going to waste any more time. Over to you, Ali.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me? Everybody's
can,
okay?
yeah.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you, Claire, Sue, for allowing Mid Sussex District Council to highlight the business support that the team can provide in this current situation. Essentially, I'm going to run very, very quickly and we can pick up on details later on. Essentially, at the moment, we are running 2 business support grants that my team are managing. Firstly, it's the COVID-19 recovery grant, and the purpose is to support recovery for local businesses. Grants are available between 1,000 to 5,000, up to £5,000. And it's essentially for businesses who employ between 10 and up to 250 employees. So we're talking about the small businesses and the SMEs. And really, it's all about business support to help with additional costs associated with going back to pre-COVID levels, any additional costs associated with actually making your environment, your working environment safe, and to also provide additional costs for new service provision, any ways of actually engaging with businesses and customers, and any new approach that businesses may have to adapt to and become agile to as a result of the situation that we're looking at the moment. So the priority areas would be for businesses that require additional costs to cope with the current situation, and not necessarily to cover day-to-day running costs. That's something that my colleague Kevin Stewart will probably allude to. The other side of our business support is for the micro businesses, and micro businesses are essentially those who employ up to 10 people. And essentially these individuals could be full-time employees or part-time employees. And the District Council have got £2,000 available for businesses, up to £2,000 for businesses who would want to be encouraged to provide additional training, additional employment opportunities, to reach out to new customers, introduce new products and services. Anything which is going to be innovative, anything that's going to help them grow, basically. And that's what the micro business is all about. The micro business grant will probably require a match funding element as well, 50% match funding. So in order to get the £2,000 worth of grant assistance, a business which is in growth phase will be spending money on capital equipment, capital assets anyway. So that type of thing would be essential as one of the criteria. So the priority here would be to create jobs for local people, improve the skills base for the workforce, support the local supply chain, and improve the business sustainability of businesses locally. And again, I think with regards to Mims' project and initiative with regards to Kickstarters and apprentices and creating new jobs for employees and creating skills base, I think this type of approach would also be welcome. Those businesses and organizations who want to approach us for any assistance, any further details, I think if Sue and if you can come through Sue and Claire from the Business Association, we'll be able to turn it around. At this juncture, I think I've used my less than 5 minutes, haven't I? That would give me enough time, no doubt, to hand over to Mims, and Mims can do her presentation in terms of the current support. But if there's anything that you need, please do come back to me through Claire and Sue. Okay, thank you very much. Cheers.
Morning, everybody, and we meet again, and it's really good to see some familiar faces, and thank you for your attendance today. We've got the leader of the council on the call, Jonathan Ash-Edwards, also my senior caseworker and chief of staff, Sarah, who has done a lot of work with the group and many people on the call, and we all stand ready to try and give you some extra help and support on this. I know Councillor Ruth Demir is here as well. I just wanted to give you a little bit of broader context nationally, mention a few of the interventions. The challenge right now, I'm sure if you're sitting there, is where on earth do we turn and what do we do? We've just had our latest update on businesses who have to close, and we've just got the new guidance on that, so we will share that. And obviously things have been quite fluid and quite quick this week. The council's reacted incredibly well once again, and we're sharing everything we can to try and help you. It's extremely frustrating because I know some people on the call I was speaking to a week ago just about what I was going to do and try and push through with the HSE help in regard to getting the event sector up and running. I'm talking later to the tourism sector. And I know some of you have just simply never even got it into restart mode, let alone shutting down mode. And it's a really horrific time. In terms of the broader narrative from the government and where we are, and I'll be very, very honest, I found, supporting this additional lockdown very challenging in terms of some of the bits I've just described to you. But the reality is that hopefully within a few more weeks, we're going to be in a much better space for a longer term recovery. And in the meantime, to protect the local health services, but also to be able to protect the additional treatment and support that we've been having to give people locally where we've missed out the treatments that they've needed earlier this year. And it's a fine balance. So it's a different lockdown this time with the clear message of work at home if you can, but if you can't work at home and you need to be in the office, then that's absolutely fine. This is reducing social interaction to support education and work is absolutely the priority through this scenario. We're doing 500,000 tests a day, more than anywhere in Europe, with 32 million people tested right now, and we've got the first mass testing going on today in Liverpool. We've got some real breakthroughs health-wise, literally imminent, which you will have heard from the Prime Minister. So I'd be very hopeful that we're hopefully in the next few weeks in a longer-term, clearer scenario, because for business and confidence, recovery, rehiring, restarting, all of that is absolutely paramount. And we just heard some of the schemes that I'm running through DWP. We've got a £30 billion for jobs, which includes £2 billion for Kickstarters and various interventions that we've got going on at DWP in terms of getting people into work and getting them into growing sectors. Lots of people also moving into seasonal work, which is needed to be done as well. And then at the same time, we're asking people not to carry on with their day-to-day life and livelihoods, which is extraordinarily challenging. Sarah has given me a breakdown of the key points, but hopefully you've picked up that the job retention scheme has been extended through until March now. The bonus, which was due at the end of January into February, will come later. The next interventions for self-employed grant will now move it into 80% of trading profits. That's across November to January, and the upfront guarantee of funding for supporting our devolved nations and knowing where we're going to be heading when it comes to the spring budget. And the cash grants are available, the extra £1 billion plus for councils, the ongoing support around VAT relief and hospitality. But I'm very conscious there are still people that are missed out and ongoing have challenges here, but that's where we have got some additional flexibility in some of the schemes that's have already been outlined. So I'm not proposing that we go into the whole of the detail of what we've got here unless you have specific questions, but what I think would be really helpful is if Kevin and Sarah and any of the team, if you do have them, bring them forward and we can try and clarify that for you. We have managed as our casework team to very much try and provide clarity straight away to people that we've worked with before. So it might sound trite, but the first thing I did when I knew that dog groomers were open is I got hold of my dog groomer and I told her don't shut this time, and particularly because my dog was booked in. But these are small female-led businesses quite often, and through the guidance where it's absolutely been possible in a COVID safe way to continue, we're absolutely trying to make that balance there. And as I say, the HSE and I are about to try and put together some real messages about where we'll hopefully be back in December. In terms of supporting this lockdown, I made it very clear that I can only do this if we're in a situation that we're back pushing forward into recovery and living with this challenge at the beginning of December. I don't think people can or should have to stomach this. I think business and the UK economy and UK people are generally very resilient and are making responsible and suitable choices locally. And I would like to continue in that vein as we move forward from December. And I feel that many, many MPs are in that situation. So for me, there were various caveats that I shared. So areas such as tourism, events and other languishing sectors that have just simply never been able to get moving. Frankly, we cannot countenance that any longer. I could go on for some time, but I'm sure you'll have many questions. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of a broader context of my thoughts. And then I'm not quite sure who I'm handing back to. So if anyone can help, there we go. But I hope that was helpful in terms of a starter.
It is. And I'm going to assume everyone's got lots of questions. So hands up, quick. If not, I've got at least 3. Well done, Katie. Go, Katie.
Hello, thank you again to HHBA and Mims and Mid Sussex District Council. Really appreciate you staying in contact with us on this. I'm very saddened to hear that micro businesses in terms of funding will have to match that funding. Many micro businesses, it's now been however many months, have burnt through any type of savings. I was getting my hair cut the other day. She said that she was worried about, she'd used all of her money to pay her tax because she hadn't earned any money for months and months and months. Micro businesses have no savings to match the fundings, and I'm very saddened to hear that the expectations will be that we've got, I don't know, a pot of £2,000-3,000 sitting around to match whatever handouts the council have. What answer do you have to that? Because it's just not acceptable, really.
Before you guys answer, can I just get all members of the council to just quickly wave so everybody's identifying themselves? Thanks, Jonathan, Kevin, Ali. Who else has we got there? Caroline. Is that everybody? I've only got one screen open. Plus Mims.
If Mims is happy for me to come in, do you want me to just come in and explain about the grants, the new COVID-19 grants? Because I think that may be helpful to members, and hopefully I won't steal any thunder. In respect of the COVID-19 mandatory grants, this is for businesses that are closed, which is on page 31 of the legislation that was approved by Parliament on Wednesday. It highlights the closed businesses on there. If they pay business rates up to 15,000 RV for the 4-week period of closure, they will get £1,334. Between 15 and 51, they will get £2,000, and over 51,000, they will get £3,000. Now, the applications for that will be online from Monday. It may be over the weekend, but it will certainly be very early doors on Monday at www.grantapproval.co.uk. I did communicate that to all the business associations, including HHBA, last night, and I did copy Sarah, your office, in too as well, Mims. The discretionary grant scheme, and this may be of interest to you, Katie, because I know we've corresponded before. For the other scheme, by the way, for the national scheme, once again, the government has given us help. There's 2.2 million for that scheme, but they have told us for that scheme they will give us more funding as we need it. For the discretionary scheme, there is £3,020,000, more or less, there's a few hundred as well, given towards us for a council discretionary scheme. Now, I can't say more at this moment on that, other than that, because it is looking at fixed costs and it's looking for business rates properties, but I do need approval of the council members to set guidelines and to publish guidelines for that. So it might be slightly longer to bring in, but I can assure you we are working extremely hard on that, and we're looking for quick decisions off members, and it might be slightly a little longer than Monday, but we are very keen, both members and officers, to be up and running with applications that will hopefully be open very, very soon for businesses to tap into. I can say from the first round of funding that we were very quick to make payments and to get information out as soon as possible, and we're very grateful to the support of elected members, Mims and her office, and the business associations for that support, and we'll be looking to do further webinars. I don't want to steal Mims' thunder today because this is her day, not mine, so thank you.
No, that's extremely helpful, and I think, you know, in all of this, and I know Jonathan's sitting there, but I would absolutely seek forgiveness rather than anything else when it comes to supporting, propping up and helping businesses. And I know Jonathan might want to come on this. You know, other councils haven't been so wide ranging and forthcoming, and it's been meaning that other MPs are tearing their hair out, Katie. So I think our council, and I'll let Jonathan come in on this, is doing a brilliant job on that. And, you know, we need to deploy this, obviously, to the letter of the law and as appropriate possible, but absolutely to try and make sure that we help people. The other point I would say to people, just with my DWP hat on, and also that Sarah and the casework team can help with this. And I know Rev and Ben's and Ruth's team are at the council as well, in terms of particular hardships that people are having. There are particular grants and one-off payments and extra help there. There is a benefits calculator on .gov.uk for people who are sole traders, who are in the particular situation, Katie, that your hairdressing lady prescribed. So people may be able to access the benefits system and support there as well. So I wouldn't also rule that out. But Jonathan, you might want to jump in on that.
Thanks, Mims. Hello, everyone. I wonder if I could just provide hopefully a bit of clarity, because I think we're going to have 4 different grant schemes running over the course of November. So the ones that Ali referred to were ones we had in place before the decision made by government around the sort of November lockdown. So those were all about the COVID recovery, growth, getting back to business. And so they have slightly different set of criteria. The micro business one is one that's done across West Sussex, and which is why some of the criteria are a bit more fixed. So those are the 2 that Ali is going to be managing, the micro business grants and the COVID recovery grants. The ones that Kevin is managing are the mandatory grants for closed businesses that he's just referred to, and the discretionary scheme, which is essentially more of the income support scheme. So that hopefully just sort of clarifies the different streams of funding there. And yes, as Mims has said, we will be as creative as we can in terms of providing as much support as we can to local businesses. We did that in the spring, and we'll carry on doing that, because we know this is a really difficult time for businesses, and we want people to be able to come out of the other end. So please do speak to our teams. We will always do everything we can to try and find a way through for you.
So is my understanding of that then really, I think, and this kind of comes from where Katie's coming from, will businesses be sort of assessed on a case-by-case basis rather than applying general criteria? Because I know businesses have fallen through cracks before where they don't fit criteria. So would there, you know, if we've got certain individuals that have struggled, they would be listened to on a case-by-case basis?
Yes, yeah, that's certainly the case, Claire. And what we did with the discretionary scheme before is we were as wide-ranging as we could with the criteria for that. We draw those up locally within some national guidance, and we stretched the guidance, the national guidance, as far as we possibly could. And yeah, we found all sorts of ways of getting funding to people. So we'll be as creative as we can again with that, and yes, yeah, we'll look at, you know, on a case-by-case basis. Kevin's team with discretionary grants, you know, discretion goes a long way. So please come and talk to the teams, and we'll do everything we can to try and find a way through. And you know, part of that, as you say, there are lots of, whenever you design national schemes, yeah, it's always challenging for governments to find something that's going to fit every scenario, and at a local level, very often we can use discretion far better to try and do that. So both Ali and Kevin's teams will make sure we do that.
Well, on that point as well, Claire, just quickly, we've matched in with what Sarah and my casework team have done. So, you know, obviously there's a balance here between the fraud challenge. And we know in particular schemes, and certainly, you know, even in the Kickstart scheme, the minute, you know, that was open, people kind of thought it was going to be a way of just getting free money. And, you know, some ridiculous stuff came through, which obviously we filtered out. And I'm absolutely not saying that's the case here, but this is taxpayers' money. We've got to be very, very careful. But the point is, and future taxpayers' money, but the other point is that, you know, where you are viable, you're doing everything you can. You've written to me as well. We are trying to cross-correlate and support people, because obviously that's where the benefit comes in, that we know the community, we know the business, Kevin does, Jonathan alike. We can use that local knowledge to try and refine those schemes to support people in the way that Jonathan's mentioned. So if you're engaged with us or engaged directly with the council, we're trying to cross-match that as well. And therefore then see, by understanding that, people that have also perhaps written to us who haven't been helped before, we can then showcase that actually there's been a way that other people have been helped. So linking in with us too is very helpful to try and build that overall picture of support that we need to give locally.
Great. Ali, oh, hold on. Can I just get Ali? Sorry, Ali's waited patiently with his hand up. So
no,
you go.
I think between us all, between Councillor Ash Edwards and Kevin, Katie was just going to refer to the fact that between our two teams, we'd be covering not only the criteria in terms of helping businesses grow, but also the day-to-day operational costs. So if we work on the basis that Kevin's team will be looking at the operating costs, the day-to-day running costs and so forth, and my team would be looking at for the micro businesses, would be looking for the potential capital investment involved in helping your businesses grow and meeting up with your clients. I think we should have bases covered. Obviously, no promises, guarantees. We'll meet it on individual cases, but hopefully between the two of us, there's some agility there with the funds that we're managing and the monies that we've got to take care of. But rest assured, we'll ensure that everybody's help and support is best as possible. Thank you very much, Claire.
Thanks, Ali. Sorry to cut you off there, Ruth. Please.
No, I just wanted to reiterate that with all the grants that are available, and don't forget, if you know anyone who is struggling financially, not only do we have the business grants, which have been explained, but we've got things like hardship grants, isolation grants, council tax support schemes, and more importantly, free independent debt advice. So please do spread the word that people aren't alone. Contact, if you'd like me to send over the email addresses and the telephone numbers, our Revs and Bens teams and the housing needs teams are ready and waiting to talk to you. Right. And I think it's important that people realise that they're not alone in this.
Yeah.
Can I just very quickly come back on that? I think that's really important from Ruth. And there's been a whole lot of stuff, and I'll be political with a very small p very briefly on the free school meals issue. The reason that there's wider support than that, and actually what the government resolved to do was actually it was too narrow from what the opposition was asking for. So actually what we've voted through and asked for is some of the stuff that Ruth has asked for, as mentioned, and it is out there broader than business support. So if your friends and neighbours and the reality of COVID has brought you into a financial situation which you haven't been in and therefore not been able to be on free school meals, then there's broader help there, both from the county and through Mid Sussex. And this is really important, certainly for those friends and neighbours who may be in additional needs because of the COVID impact, which wasn't foreseen, for example, when those were indeed applied for. So anybody in that situation can come through Ruth or Sarah to try and get some broader support on that. And that's why I really like to point out, obviously this is focused on business, but there'll be a lot of people where their incoming money, etc., has massively changed. So please do ask for that additional support as well.
Yeah, just email me, I'll sort it.
If you pop your email in the chat there, Ruth, that would be great. Nas, you had your hand up as well.
Yeah. Mims, I think it's a question to you with regards to support for directors of SME limited companies that pay themselves by dividend. Is the government going to be looking at that? Sort of, I feel like it's a gap in the support system, although the support system's been really comprehensive and the latest announcements for self-employed are up to 80%. Not all directors of SME limiteds have taken all their money out. It's been reinvested as well. There does seem to be a gap, and I was wondering if the government were looking at trying to plug that gap, really.
I think it's the area that makes Sarah and me greyer and more miserable and more challenged than ever, actually. So
I'm so glad I asked then. Brilliant.
No, it's because so I mean, in terms of what I've done in terms of DWP and the parts of government that I can manage in terms of reducing the minimum income floor, so it's people who may have their own businesses but are on universal credit, that has been extended out through till April, so that people don't have to reach a certain amount of to remain quote unquote viable. So that's the bit that I've managed, and we've pushed that out. I've got a briefing later with number 10 on this, because there does seem to be, I don't know if it's a blind spot or just a way of managing this situation. The Treasury seems to have chosen a different path, and I'll let Sarah come in on this. It's more about grants and the VAT reduction and the tax stuff, but I realise that those things are starting to run out. Sarah has been looking at this extensively, and we've been lobbying extensively on it, because I think many MPs feel exactly the same. If I do also point out the fraud issue, what the problem is what's been designed, and Jonathan mentioned earlier, what's been designed centrally in terms of what can they be sure of doesn't hit the people that you are and you're describing. So therefore they've taken this view which leaves this gap, and it's extremely frustrating, which is why and Sarah will come in a mo, we have worked extensively with the council here to use the discretionary breadth as widely as possible. And that's certainly been the feed in, I can see Kevin nodding as well, that's been the feed in about knowing people locally, being able to stretch out that discretionary help as broadly as possible. And that seems to be the way that we're finding the best way to try and help people in that blind spot, which is as much as what I can say. That's why I'm particularly keen around events and tourism and the wider stuff. If you can just get more people back working in a COVID safe way, then actually that problem then starts to decrease as well. So it's the discretionary part. We're doing what we can, and I'll just let Sarah come in because you've got your mic ready to go on that. Yeah.
We've been approached, as you can imagine, by a wide range of people who don't fit into the scheme, especially on the self-employed side. So as you say, directors of limited company businesses who take dividends. We've asked the question in many different ways through many different routes and get a consistent reply back that they are not looking to change the schemes, that the HMRC cannot distinguish between dividends paid to directors as a result of their own business and those as a result of shareholdings, that sort of things with other businesses. There isn't a way to distinguish that. We have posed the questions of, well, can you not pay up and then do a kind of a reverse audit and all the rest of it? No, too complicated a system is the reply we receive. We've contacted them on behalf of people who are freelancers, so they run a mixture of pay-as-you-earn and self-employment who miss out on the SIFE scheme because they can't be furloughed, because at the point that we went into lockdown and everything changed, they were self-employed, but their self-employed income isn't more than 50%. We have contacted on several occasions on behalf of constituents who are self-employed director but only present their accounts on an annual basis, as they are permitted to do, who aren't eligible for the furlough scheme because they submitted after the 20th of March so they don't have any data for the previous tax year. And we, despite the illusions that Mims isn't standing up in the chamber and speaking about this rattling cages, we are rattling behind the scenes. As a minister, she can't speak in general debates, but we are continuously contacting through all the routes, and every time people come through to us. So it's not that we're not trying, we do keep trying, and the HMRC come back, no, this is the way that it is. We're not proposing any changes. So we haven't given up all hope. We will still keep rattling that cage, but we're not hopeful of the outcome that people want.
But that makes the discretionary work and everything we're doing with the council and the local stuff even more important. The other side of my brief about getting workplaces up, going, trading, absolutely vital. And I'm, it's very frustrating. I'm, delighted to see more help coming. And lots of people are getting more help, and some people are just still getting no help, and that's really, really difficult because of the way that things are designed that Jonathan has just described centrally. So whatever we can do on a local area, whatever we can do through hardship and the other additional stuff from MHLG, and that goes back to my previous point of December. I want to see this economy open with some vaccines and continuing COVID safe practices and a focus on getting work and getting back going, because that's what we all do best, and then we can pay our taxes and start paying this down. And I'm really sorry that at the moment this is a continued blind spot, and we've literally given idea after idea, and Sarah's been very, very patient. But please use what you can locally, and let's just try and get everyone opened back up and moving forward, because that, I think, is the only way we're going to fix this.
Yeah, Claire, can I just thank Mims and Sarah for those answers? I mean, one thing, just maybe, I suppose directors who pay themselves dividends, I suppose would like to have parity on those with SEIS comparisons, because I think the parity is there, and maybe HMRC can hopefully see that there is parity between those that pay themselves dividends and those that are on SEISS. Can I just say one thing from a personal point of view? I think I absolutely endorse that, Mims, that Kevin and all his colleagues at the council have absolutely been outstanding to the help that they've given the business community in this area, backed by the strength of HHBA. So I'd just like to endorse that. And that's the end of my questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Ness. Mims, I do have a question for you, actually. And that is, it's your hope that on the 2nd of December, we do open back up again. That's obviously your hope. Is that going to be the reality? And to be honest, I would like to hear an honest answer that actual fact, no, it's probably not. Because I want to prepare for it. Do you know, I'm
Okay.
a big girl.
No, so I'll give you what I'm absolutely pushing for, and bearing in mind I've got the job figures coming out tomorrow as the employment minister, and people get confused about what my role is, and they think it's about sort of workers' rights and stuff, and I'm actually the unemployment minister. So if people are unemployed, it's my job to get people into to work. And so I absolutely want all you running your businesses, employing people, doing what you do best. And going back to my previous points about the beginning of December, with the COVID situation, which was increasing in Sussex, not too bad in mid-Sussex, but Crawley and Brighton and Hove were really starting to grow. And I'm speaking to the NHS later today to see how they're getting on. I have had direct conversations, and I'm very keen to push this forward, as we need to get back into that tiered system. And as soon as possible, because that is very beneficial for us in mid-Sussex. We've behaved extremely well. We're doing everything we can to be COVID safe, running our businesses and doing what we can if we've been able to open up. I would like the economy further opened up. I think, frankly, people's patience is wearing thin. They do want honesty, and I think the honesty is we're going to have to live with this in some way, shape or form, with much more testing and hopefully starting vaccine very, very close. That's the thing I can say to you. And I strongly believe the Prime Minister and our party was hoping that we could stave this off until perhaps around December, or getting through enough of the winter pressures to be able to avoid this additional second lockdown. So I am very clear that I have found this very difficult to countenance if this isn't if this is the start of another cycle of national lockdowns, and I just don't want to see it. I don't think it's does us any good. And you know, everything we're doing has got to be paid back and covered, and I'm worried about building in a sense of over reliance on the state as well. And, you know, the perception, what's okay, government can do it. They can't. We don't have any money. It's your money. It's taxpayers' money. It's borrowed money. So I'm very, very clear that, you know, there'll be another vote about what happens at the beginning of December. And if mid-Sussex is in a lower level for COVID safety, I want us to go back into the previous incarnation where we reduce social impacts, but we focus on education and work. And I want us to open up those sectors and let people make the decisions that they do every day, you know, with HSE and the risk-based approach. And I'll just quickly mention workplace situations. So, very few workplace outbreaks. So you've had ones maybe where sharing cars or sharing accommodation is the joint reason that maybe some of the larger factory outbreaks have occurred. But generally, if you look at COVID deaths and COVID impacts, in the workplace where things are done COVID safe, and I'm running sort of DWP in the job centres, so we've got 80,000 people day in, day out working in a COVID safe way, and I'm having to make sure that operationally works. So I know the challenges, and we've been having to do this all the way through, and I want people to be able to do that with their own businesses and people to have choice. So I'm very keen, and most MPs I've spoken to, certainly on our side, want to return to the tier system, a risk-based approach, and do everything we can to get back to the closest normality as we can.
Thanks, Mims. Jeremy, over to you for you have a question. Don't forget to unmute. That's it.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. And hello, Mims and Sarah. Thanks for your support in all of this. It's a question really on if you can bring us up to date, if you have knowledge of what's happening with the Global Aviation Task Force. Obviously this area, Mid-Sussex and the whole of the Gatwick Diamond, is very, very much encouraged, helped, led by having a successful aviation economy. And with the closure of Gatwick, pretty much, I think it's running about 80% down of where it was, and this month will be catastrophic. What can be done? How can we get a testing regime? So kind of an open question really on the aviation task force. Thank you.
Okay, I spoke to CAE this morning, and that undoubtedly came up, and they are one of our largest and most important employers in terms of Burgess Hill, and I do want to briefly touch on Brexit transition stuff very shortly as well, if I may. So there's various things coming down the line for businesses in terms of challenges, but the issues around quarantine and training for CAE came up this morning, testing, and I did understand that Gatwick were very close to bringing in some testing changes themselves, and that this task force has really unlocked the challenges around testing, and that's been very welcome. I work with Baroness McGregor Smith, who is on the board at Heathrow through my DWP work, and she does some in-work progression, and she's been, very vociferous on the, global aviation industry is absolutely vital to us and us as a nation. I think, other countries are stealing a march. We're losing people. You can't rebuild aviation from scratch. And I think Gatwick themselves have been incredibly resilient and pragmatic, and you rightly describe how much aviation has impacted, and it can be up to 6 different salaries in people's houses in Mid Sussex, airlines, attendants, pilots, retail, logistics. We've got some real hardship here because of Gatwick not being able to get back. I think there's some things that we can do through this task force and through this next few weeks of lockdown, is to sort out the quarantine issues, sort out this quick testing, and my understanding that's not far away. I've also backed and said at the beginning of December I would like to see the isolation time reduced. I've just personally done 2 weeks because my daughter's school bus, there was a ping and they went back 48 hours, and my daughters were in for half term and beyond that because of this, and we complied. And the rules around if you get COVID and then you've only got to wait for 10 days, etc., etc. This is untenable, so we need to simplify this, and I think we'll get better compliance of people staying at home. If you're on a low income, for example, you do get up to £500 payment to stay indoors. So I would say if anybody knows anyone's having to do this and is having hardship, please also apply for that. I can see Ruth nodding. They're able to help. So all of this is interlinked. If we don't get Gatwick and this economy going as a whole, and the broader economy, we're in real trouble. And absolutely, this is paramount. So I've been engaged with the aviation minister. I've got some issues as well, which was raised by CA this morning. The tax-free shopping issue is really not ideal as well, and we frankly need to be greedy for Mid Sussex and greedy for this country when it comes to restarting this economy, because it's the only way we're going to get out of this. So a very, very important point for us to focus on, and we need to know Jonathan's working on a recovery plan for Mid Sussex and Gatwick, and what's happening there is absolutely key.
Thanks, Mims. I do have a very personal question, actually, which is very, very relevant to me, but also to Rebecca Downey, and it might actually touch upon some other people's lives in some other industries. I'm not sure. I've trawled the internet to try and find this answer, and I can't. So I'm a videographer. Rebecca's a photographer. We can't work from home. We're not an essential key worker. Can I go out and film other businesses?
Sarah, you might want to contradict me, but I believe that you can work in other people's houses. So if you're going to photo someone else,
and other people's businesses, because that's what I'm B2B.
Yeah, so, Sarah, what do you think? I think you can. If you can't work at home, I would presume yes.
Because my original reaction to this is like, I can't possibly. It doesn't feel quite right. The ethics aside of like, is this okay? Where do the barriers come down and we have to stop this?
So we have to take a pragmatic approach to this. I don't know, Sarah, if you want to come in a minute, but I've asked health ministers various things sometimes. And I've tried to, when I've advised people, offered a pragmatic approach to them. Sarah, did you want to add anything on that?
I'm aware from an update we had yesterday that people who are in filming and in radio, those sorts of things, they can continue if they're making TV programs or they're making films. They're allowed to continue.
So would I fall under that bracket? I'm not exactly in that bracket, but
No.
I do marketing.
Well, that's the thing. These essential messages, and what I would say to you, if it's essential for you to do that job because you cannot do it at home and you do it in a COVID safe way, then you can then continue to work. And this is the central plank of the message from the government this time. You know, work at home if you can, but if you can't, go to work, shop safely, no social interaction. It's just about working and the essentials to live.
Okay. Thank you, Mims.
We have had an update on business closures guidance. I'll put the link in the chat.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it was asked in one of my WhatsApp groups about photographers at home, where people have kind of booked family photos because of new babies, for example. You know, you can't necessarily delay them, but if you can have a tradesman coming to fix your washing machine or your domestic cleaner, I don't understand why you couldn't do your job if you were doing it socially distanced, COVID safe, open up the windows, for example. The other thing is have a look at the HSE guidelines on the website. They've got fantastic guidelines. Sarah, you could put a link into their working at home and working safely guidelines. And again, on this, I would say ask for forgiveness, because I think, you know, if this is a question of you can't do it any other way, then you're allowed to do that.
It's a tricky one, because I don't know if is the demand going to be there for me to want to come into their work premises at the moment. There's a nervousness now. I can stomach a month. I've planned for this. Then it becomes untenable, really, that I can't just stop.
And there's always a moral issue in here. I totally get that. So the same with me, with my daughters. So I was actually at home anyway, because somebody in the DWP private office was having a COVID test. I worked directly with that person in a COVID safe way, but I was like, no, I'm staying at home, kept my children off school. Mr. School play did not go down very well at all. But I thought, in all good conscience, so it works in both directions, I'm saying, I can't send my children to school until we know what's happened. Anyway, literally got the all clear. Yay, we can all go back. And got a ping that something had happened on the school bus 2 days before. All right, we've got 2 days head start, etc., etc. So I actively chose, although to the letter of law I didn't need to isolate too, I just stayed in, because that was the right thing to do, because I couldn't be clear, you know, if anything happened to them, although to the letter of law I didn't have to. But I thought, you know, you see people, other MPs just going off and, you know, making up their rules, you know. So for me, that was the right thing to do. So if you feel you need to go and do that job and it's appropriate, your customer feels comfortable, you take all the COVID safety guidelines, you can carry on with your business.
Thanks,
Hopefully
Mims.
that helps you, Rebecca, as well.
It's a hard message to convey at the moment, because you don't want to look like you are going to go out and make money at all costs to the safety of the nation. But then it's just how you position it. It's very, very difficult. So I'm gonna just show the recording of you saying it's okay for me to work, and I'm going to put that on all my social media.
And I can
have that clip, Claire.
I can tell you, across the summer, where people had to make essential journeys to pick up children, to travel, you know, I have some people whose young adults worked at Heathrow. There was no bus from Gatwick, so they were driving around with a letter from my office saying, we were told this is an essential journey, you know. And I won't always get it right, and people absolutely, you know, I'm always aware that, you know, front page of the Daily Mail stuff, but for this, the balance here is your livelihood, doing it in a COVID safe way, in the same way that other people are going to work in their own COVID safe way, because that's the way they have to work. Someone's uncomfortable with you in their business, and it may be right now, because there's less people in, it's actually safer to do that videoing than it would be when you've got more people returning. So, you know, and there is in the coronavirus legislation and guidance, and Sarah and I often discuss this with people, you know, who are travelling overseas. The other day we had somebody who had to move out to their parents, who weren't necessarily in their bubble because they had this kitchen being fitted and all this building being done. And they, you know, I was like, would you, you know, this is, in order to keep that business going, you've got to do what you need to do. So there's always an element of, you know, interpreting it. I'm not saying do anything dangerous or stupid. I'm saying, you know, there's got to be a level of pragmatism in here, else there'll be no businesses or anything left.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm sure everybody is so very acutely aware that you have to operate safely because your livelihood is in jeopardy. If you were the source of an outbreak, then I just couldn't live with it personally. And then also to have your business tarnished with that as well. So there's too much to lose. So
on the converse to that, Claire, if you are worried about how another business is operating, or if you're worried about something else that's going on, you can alert the HSE. So you can call them. They do spot checks. I think we've done about 14,000, I've got my notes here somewhere, 14,000 spot checks. They will come in and look and see how a business is operating. You can obviously let trading standards know. So the converse side of it, and you're exactly right. So if you are operating inappropriately or someone feels that you're ignoring the COVID rules, you're equally as bound to it by those interventions other people can have. So I don't envy you. There's nothing black or white here apart from we're just trying to obey the law and keep going in a COVID safe way.
I'm just jealous that you've got a cleaner who's still prepared to come. Can I have one, please?
I haven't got one.
I haven't got a cleaner. That's mine. So yeah. Right. Okay. I'm aware that we have not had time to introduce businesses. I'm going to have to knock that on the head and breakout rooms. Has anyone got any more last questions? We've just got a few more minutes to go. So this is a great opportunity to ask something that's very pertinent to you and your business.
Oh,
so,
Claire, sorry, it's Nas again.
Yep.
I've just got 2 links
right.
For grants from UK Innovate and the lottery. I was on a morning call with Capitalise on Leave No Business Behind. Mims, it'd be great if you could follow us. Hashtag Leave No Business Behind. It's run by Capitalise and they've been very, very active with micro, sole traders and SMEs. I've just put a couple of links there, guys, for you to copy.
That's great.
New national lottery funding and the new UK Innovate funding.
Now, if anybody, I don't know if you all know this, we're all very confident now and with Zoom, but you can save this chat in a file. So on the chat group, there are 3 little dots on the right-hand side of the file symbol. If you click on that, it says Save Chat. So if you need to keep all of these numbers and website details, you can have them there. And more messages are coming up now, and I haven't read them. Anybody else have any other questions? You can also do
Control and A, by the way.
Sorry, say that again?
You can click in the chat box, click Control and A, and then Control and C, and then you can drop it in the Word doc.
Oh, there you go. Yep. Excellent. Another quick way. Brilliant. Thanks, Nas. Rebecca.
I think I don't even necessarily need an answer to this, but another cage that I would appreciate you rattling, Sarah and Mims, is the fact that when you started your business has a direct impact on whether you can get the SEISS grants. Now, how that hasn't been moved over the past 8 months, where people could have left jobs, started new jobs, and now be furloughed and access support, is something that's quite frustrating for someone who's fallen just outside of that, being as I had other employment during my first year of business.
Okay, it's all to do with the tax years, is my understanding. They've moved, if, for example, if you're furloughed, the RTI date has changed. So as long as if you've been employed by a new employer from the 20th of March through to, I believe it's the end of October, as long as you've been paid once and it's notified to the HMRC via RTI during that date, it's covered. Whereas the SICE schemes work on income eligibility for the previous tax years. We can certainly ask the question.
Yeah, because it's going back 3 years.
Yeah, but it's three tax years, and we're not through another tax year yet.
Well, it depends. Yeah, it depends from the March we are.
Next March, yes.
No, from March. When we went into lockdown, was towards the end of this. We're in a new tax year since went in, but that's not been shifted.
Yes. So you're asking whether 1920 should now be included in the calculation, and dropping off the earliest year, which I think was 1670.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. I'm going to wrap things up because I feel like we're coming to a natural pause. But first of all, I'm going to land Paul Dalabar right in it and say, could you tell us a little bit more information about the LC Expert that's coming up on the 25th of November, just before we leave?
Thank you very much.
Sorry to make you pivot straight away there, Paul.
Yeah, it's looking at different ways of actually expanding, growing, working to develop your business when areas that you would naturally assume, such as a sort of organic growth, may be difficult to find. And I'll just leave it at that. Otherwise, I'll start stealing Robert's thunder as well.
That's perfect. That's great little to whet our appetite. That's fabulous. Right, I'm going to say a massive thank you to everybody who came on to this call from the Mid Sussex District Council, and especially you, Mims, for taking the time out of your exceptionally busy schedule. I think this has been very useful information, even if it's not directly to yourself, it's to you. Maybe you're more armed to help other people that you know, and I think that's always the great thing about these connections and these networking groups, is you help other people as a result of this who couldn't make it today. So please keep other people in touch. We will through the HHBA website, and obviously we're in constant touch with these guys as well. If you haven't got Kevin Stewart on your speed dial, I think it's probably about time you did. He's a very good man to know, and obviously here to help anybody if you've got any of those questions about the grants as well. So big round of applause. Thank you guys, that's amazing.
Claire, can I just quickly add one thing as well? Just that East Grinstead Business Association will be running a webinar next week in conjunction with Kevin and Ali from Mid Sussex District Council. So if you've got questions relating to these grants, then do join that call. I will be advertising details later on.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sue. Thanks for organising all of this
Good
as
luck,
well.
Mims, tonight.
Yeah, I'm doing Any Questions tonight on Radio 4. So if anyone's bored, have a listen tonight. But just to say, I know it's extremely hard, and I really do. I mean, it just breaks my heart to be still having these conversations. But hopefully we can start to get towards some more light. And thank you for your patience and understanding. There is a reminder in the chat. There's additional time to continue to try and get loan support and other stuff like that. So please do access. I know it's a full-time job, trying to keep the full-time job going, and that's really, really difficult. And I fully understand that, and do not want to be in that situation. So thank you for your resilience and patience, and we're going to need you on the other side, employing and supporting people. So thank you for bearing through this. It's really difficult, and thanks Jonathan and all the team for supporting my team through all this as well, and Kevin and Ali all doing a great job. So thank you very much, and hopefully talk to you again in better times.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mims. Thanks, everybody. Have a lovely weekend and see you soon.